In this tutorial, we will learn about data mapping. If we see our last process, what we created, we were able to go from one screen to other screen, but what the data we were filling in intake screen, that data was not carrying forward to the review screen. And same, if I was putting some data in the review screen, that data was not carrying forward to the load screen. Okay, so in BPM, how to map data from one service to other service, from one activity to other activity. Okay, so this concept is a generic concept. So now we will see here in context of human services, but in future, suppose we want to transfer data from human service to integration service or human service to decision service, the concept will remain the same. Okay, so this was the process model we created. Okay, like we had a collection, review and load activity. We created the users and groups. We saw what is the concept behind the team, and we also saw how to assign team to each lane. Okay, and we understood the concept of the human service, okay, coaches and coach view. Okay, so each activity, as I told you, each activity you can expose in different ways. Okay, so if you go to implementation here, you can see over here the user task, system task, decision task, script, sub process and link process and none. Okay, so you can make it as a user task. Okay, because for me it is going to be a screen. So what I did, I just made all these three things as a user task. Okay, whatever the task which is performed by the system, I made as a system task over here. Okay, fine. Now let's what we did, since it's a human task, what we did, we just dragged and dropped the coach. Okay, this is the coach. A coach means it's a screen. Okay, and here if you click on the submit button, your control goes to end. Means once you click on the submit button, automatically your coach gets closed. Okay, and this service become finished. Okay, fine. So if you want to test also, just run this your service over here. Okay, and you can see your intake coach over here, and you will click on the submit button, automatically the service has finished. It means because it's an individual service which has the start and end, and the service got over. Same way, if you see over here, you have created a review and load HS. Okay, how do we create it? We just make sure what is the component in the screen which is getting repeated. So the component which is getting repeated, what you did, you make that component as a coach view. Okay, so that's why you created few coach view over here, intake coach view and review coach view. Okay, so if you see over here, similarly we created the review. So in the review coach, if you come over here and review coach, you can see the intake coach view is also there and review coach view is also there. You just did the drag and drop over here. Okay, if you double click in the, if you want to make any change and all, you can double click and your intake coach view will get open. Okay, so this is your intake coach view. Fine. Now let's go back to the last one, the load document. In the load document, we saw in the load coach, your intake coach view and review coach view will be just like that. Okay, along with that, we have another section called as a load section. Okay, so what I'm going to do over here, I just dragged and dropped the variables, work item variable over here, because I just need to create from the load. So if you drag and drop these variables over here, your load section got created. If you want to do some sort of a UI touch up, what you can do over here, go to view, you will have something called as a I think it's not here. Okay, fine. I was thinking, okay, sometime in BPM till BPM 8.5.5, you will get some sort of a, I think this is the section, okay, some horizontal section or vertical section, okay. So what I can do, I can just put these things inside this section, okay, and now it, and I gave over here some name as a load section. Okay, so it will be pretty clear. Suppose intake, I want to put in the intake coach view in the under the intake section. Okay, you can just drag and drop. Similar way, you can have another section called as a, do we have the vertical section also? Okay, let it be. I don't want vertical. So you can have the section here and put this also inside. So what? So it will look little better. So what you can make here, just make as an intake section. Intake section and make this as a review section. Okay, fine. Save it. Now if you will try to run, you will see everything within a section. So it will be pretty clear. Intake screen is this, review screen this, and load screen is this. Okay, these you can ask me, Mohit, this is too big. Okay, so these things, okay, you can always control using the CSS file. Okay, how much length, how much bit should be. Okay, so for that, what you can do, just drag and drop a something called as a custom HTML, and in this custom HTML just write the CSS. Okay, it's you can write the HTML and you can write the CSS. Okay, and that CSS you have to apply in the coach view variable. Okay, so here you can add class and you can add the CSS class over here. Okay, CSS class name and this. So in the CSS class, what you can do, you can define how much length and width you want to put for each section. Okay, let me do one thing. I think this is time take and review. Okay, fine. So I don't want this, so I am deleting here. So this is your load screen. Similarly, if you go to review, coach view, review HS. Okay, so this is the review HS. Here also, if you want, just put a section over here also. It is it is the job of how beautifully you want to create. So there are a lot of options are also here. You can just drag and drop and you can explore over there how to do this. Fine. Now, what we need to do? Okay, now your screens are created. We will try to run the process. Okay, so how to run the process? Just go over here. You have to run from here. So just go over here and click on the run button. Click on the yes. Select here. Now instead of the default screen, so first it assigned to the task is assigned to the intake person. Click on the OK button. Give the password. Okay, so this is your intake screen. Okay, now instead of the default screen, you are getting the actual screen. Okay, now you can give some detail over here. Type of request, suppose I made as a address change request. Requester name, suppose I made as a Tom. Now request is, okay, again I tell please change my address. Here in the type of request I made as an update. Okay, address is, suppose I gave something called some address, Chicago. Work stream, suppose I'm a neuro doctor. Okay, and notes, I don't give any notes. Here suppose I gave the date is today's date. Okay, and give the contact number. So suppose I just give some contact number and click on the submit. Now, in what intake person has done, he has submitted the form just now. Okay, now to whom the form will be assigned? This form will go to the reviewer. So how a reviewer will access the information? it will come over here. So basically all these things will work in the process portal. I'm a developer, so I'm testing from the process designer. Okay, review person, give the password to him also. So the reviewer should be able to see all the intake information. Okay, somehow the intake information is not coming. Okay, and then I will tell you why the information is not coming. The reviewer will check. Suppose he made the request is valid, and he put some review comment. Request is fine. Some review date. Suppose he made some review date is today. Okay, and click on the submit button. The task will be assigned to the load, okay, here. And again, if you go to load person, okay, password, yes, okay, intake, review and load. Okay, now he will give the load dates and all. So let me give the load date. Number of requests loaded, this is load successful, yes, and click on the submit button. Finally the system activity will get executed, but I do not have, if the process will not stop because it's not human service. So basically after this your process will get finished, and if you here you can see your process is finished. Fine. So what we saw, we created the screen, and after creation of the screen you see it is getting the task is successfully getting assigned to different activities, and they are able to finish also. Okay, in the real world they will do all this testing, okay, all the work they will be doing in the process portal. We already saw how to test from the process portal also. If you want to test from the process portal, what you need to do, just give the ID and password, and here just give process portal. Okay, so your process portal will get will get open, and then you need to, suppose the first person who is logging in, he will log in as an intake user. Let me see what the default login is using. Okay, okay, so let it come. So load is there, so I will log out. The first task will be done by intake password. So as I told you, there will be some person who will start your process. Okay, so here I gave the option like anybody can start your process. How to give that option? If you go to overview, and there is something called here expose to start. All users means any user can start your process. Okay, so come over here, and here you can see your process. Your process name is, you can see the name of the data integrity app. Okay, so click over here, data integrity app. If you click over here, automatically a task is assigned to whom? Collector, intake person. He has claimed the task. Give the request. Okay, update. Okay, fine. When it will be submit, automatically now the task is gone from the intake. The task will be assigned to whom? It will be assigned to the reviewer. So you need to log in with the, in the same portal. Now review person will log in, and he will see whether any task is assigned to me or not. Okay, so you can see after logging in, he can see there is a task is assigned to him. Click on the review document, claim task. Okay, so somehow that intake information is not coming over here also, and he will do the review, write some review, something, or not, it's a date. So suppose I made today's review, some comments. Okay, now the task has gone from here. Again, if you go to loader, you will get a task in the load screen. So we just created these screens. So now the task is assigned to the load person. He will claim the task. And after claiming, he will see the intake, review and load. He will fill up the information and submit it. So after submission, your process will get over. Okay. Now the no task will not assign to anybody else. Clear? Okay. So we created some human screen. We used the concept of coach and coach view, and we were able to create the screen. But data is not going from one place to other place. Okay. So if you see, if you are here, okay, you can see your screen, but whatever the data you are putting, the data is not going to review. Same way, the review data is not going to load. Okay, so to pass data here, there is a concept called data mapping. Okay, and it is very important concept, in BPM. If you understand this concept, I think then you will not have any problem in data mapping in any service. Okay. Now the reason comes, the question comes, why data is not transferred from one service to other. Fine. So if you see over here, why it is not getting transferred? Because your data is tied up with the variable. Okay, so whenever you are putting a data, basically what you are trying to do in the intake coach, whatever the variable you have defined, if you open the intake coach, okay, so if you see whatever the data you are writing over here, that data is basically if you drag and drop here, and you will see your data is assigned to this variable intake dot request dot type of request. So whatever data we are putting, that data is getting assigned to these variables. Okay, fine. Now why data is not going? Because this variable which you have created over here, if you double click, okay, in this variable the data is present. Okay, fine. Now what we need to do, come over here, intake CV1. Okay, you need to do a mapping from here, the first thing, because you are mapping in the coach view level, but you are not mapping in the final, because these are the actually input variables and output variable. Okay, so input variable for this service is work item and output is also work item. So what we did the mapping inside this intake CV1, but we have not done the mapping, okay, here from this level, because it's one more level. So what you need to do, just map this thing here, diagram, okay, intake CV1, just map to the work item dot intake. Okay, like this. Okay, fine. Now the variable is mapped from here. Okay, but if you see, even now if you try to run your process, okay, your data will not go from the collector to review. Why it is not going? Because whatever the data you are capturing at this point, okay, this complete data, that data is assigned to this variable work item, okay, tw.local.workitem.intake. Okay, but and this work item dot intake, this variable is this whatever you are creating. Okay, work item dot intake, this is the variable where you are setting the value. Okay, but if you see why the value is not going from one service to other service, because you are starting your service and you are ending your service. Okay, it's in button. So when you are clicking as in button, I will tell you one thing. Suppose if let me put one more screen. Okay, here. So I'm just giving you a sample screen. Okay, if you will try to see the data over in this screen. Okay, what I'm going to do, not all the data but few data I'm going to put. Okay, fine. So here you can just drag and drop a variable and do a mapping. Okay, or sometime if you don't want to do, you can just drag and drop something from here also. Okay, so suppose I drag and drop the output text, which will just put a text over there, output text. And in the mapping, what you can map here, this is the mapping you have to do, means which variable is listening. So suppose you have put the variable name work item dot intake dot request dot type of request. Okay, fine. So what's happening, what you are trying to do over here in the diagram, first the request will come to this coach. This coach will click on the submit button. After submitting, because this variable, it is going to save the data in this variable work item dot request dot. Okay, now if you see in the diagram, with the same variable you are putting the data into the this also. Okay, and you have put as a type of request. So it means whatever the type of request you are using in the first screen, same type of request will come over here. So if you want, we can just quickly test this. Let me give some type of request, and now I am just giving as a termination. Something I'm giving. Okay, submit. Now if you see, as you have submitted, automatically another screen got open. Another screen is nothing, it is this screen. Here we have used two screens, right? And in this two screen, another screen. Okay, because here you just put as output text. Okay, that is why whatever the type of request was, I gave as a termination, that type of request is coming over here. Means basically whatever the value you are mapping, that value is coming over here. Fine. After clicking on OK, the service will over, and where it will go? It will assign to the next service. Okay. But if you see the next service, in this next service, your type of request is not coming. What is the reason why it is not coming? It is not coming because if you see carefully over here, okay, here whatever the variables which are holding your data from this form or this form, okay, that variable you are creating over here. Okay, fine. Now the problem is, after clicking on OK button, you are ending this service. So when this service is getting finished or service is getting ended, all the variables which are defined in the service tag, all those variables will become 0. Okay, fine. Because when your service is getting over, then automatically your all the variables will also go, because the variable cannot hold that value. Okay, so due to that only, what's happening, when you're clicking on the OK button, all the variable, whatever the data you have captured, every data becoming as a null because your service is getting over. Okay, due to that only, when you're opening the review screen does not get the intake data. However, it should get the intake data, but it's not getting. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
the problem is happening, these are the service variables where your data is getting captured. Okay, so intake human screen, your data is getting captured in the service variable. That's why as long as that service is active, that variable holds value. You fight over also. Okay, if you put anywhere, if you run this service, okay, and I'm putting some value in type of request, submit, okay, it is going to open the next one and I'm getting the value. Okay, so as long as that service variable is alive, it is transferring the value. But the problem is happening at this point, the service is getting end, and after intake only your review service is coming. So basically the review, well, this variable, whatever the variable was here, that variable is losing its scope over here. So the null value is getting transferred in the review. Okay, to solve this problem, you should very correct what we need to do before this variable lose its scope. Somehow, if there is any way, I could put this value in the global variable, and once the value is there in the global variable, okay. So once the value is there in the global variable, then I can transfer, like whenever I have to uh, put the value in the review, okay, here, okay, I can transfer the value. Okay, so okay, so here if you see, if you create any variable in the process level, okay, here in the process level, if you create any variable, that variable is called as a global variable, because as the process variable will have the complete scope from the start to end in the complete process. So what we will do over here in the data mapping, that okay, the concept is, okay, since service variables are losing its scope, okay, when the, okay, service is getting over. Okay, so to do data mapping, we assign service variable to process variable, okay, before service variable dies. Okay, simple. Okay, now what we need to do, we will need to create first process variable. So come over here and create some process variable. In here, in the process variable, I can create a private variable. Okay, because I just need a process variable. I'm not worried about what is the input of the process or what is the output of the process. Okay, so just click over here in the add private and just give same something work item and make us a process. The type of this will be the work item BO. Fine. And now I created this variable, but I need to assign. How to assign the variable? That comes over here. If you go to each service, okay, you will see something called as a data mapping. Okay, in the data mapping section, you will see this variable is a service variable. This variable is also a service variable. So this one is the input service variable. So if I draw over here, what's happening in this service? This is the input of this service. Okay, this is the output of this service. Output of this service. Okay, now what I'm trying to do, output of this service, what I need to do, I have to assign to the input of the process variable. So I will click over here, and this is your process variable. You can see work item process. So what I will do, because both types are same, both are the type of the work item BO. So what I will do, the output of this, I am going to assign to the global variable work item process. Again, I will come over here. Still, this process variable holds value. Okay, so again the process variable value I will assign to the input of this review. Again the output of the review, again I will assign to whom? Process variable. So the updated value will come now in the process variable. Okay, because this output of review will also contain the review data. Okay, so that's why that review data again I am assigning to the process variable. Okay, now here again if you see, okay, here again process variable I will assign over here. And since review data I'm not going, load data I'm not going to use in email. Okay, so if you want to use an email, you can again do the same thing. If you don't want to use an email, then you can leave it empty, because after that you are not forwarding any data. If you want to forward, then what you need to do, again you have to give over the work item process. Okay, fine. Similarly, if you go to email activity, in email activity you are not getting any variable over here. Why you are not getting? Because in email activity you have not defined any service level variable. Okay, so first what you need to do, you have to define one system activity, create the input and output variable, then you can map it over here. Is it clear?
Yeah,
Student?
Mohit. Yep.
Okay, this is very important concept. Okay, and everybody gets confused over here. So always remember few things. Okay, one is you should have the service variable. Okay, and when whatever the data you want to map, because here I am just mapping the complete data set. In real time it will not be like this. Okay, I might not be assigning the complete data set, I am assigning few variables. Okay, so what I need to do, whatever the data I want to move from one activity to other activity, for that I need to create a process level variable. Simple. In the process, create a variable over here. You can create multiple private variables, no problem, but for the best practices, don't create such variables which you are not using within the process. Okay, so if you are declaring any variable, make sure you are using that. Okay, fine. So here create the private variable, and that private variable assigned to the output of the service. Okay, so your value will always be there in the global variable, and wherever you want, after in second service or third service or fourth service, okay, that variable is already there, you can assign that variable to again to the input variable. If you see what we did, let me revise again. This first thing I did, whatever the work item was coming, okay, work item was coming from here. If you see in this, open the coach, this coach value is there in the work item. Okay, so this complete work item variable you assign to here in the process. Okay, so now in the review the value is there in the process and you are assigning to the work item. Just go inside the review, and here in the, okay, you are assigning, means your intake value is there in this variable, in this input variable. Okay, fine. Here you have to do one more check. Similar way, the way we did in the mapping in the intake side, similar way what you need to do over here, you have to do a one mapping for the, because input value you have assigned to the intake BO. Okay, and now if you click on the intake BO, your mapping will be, thus your further mapping will be there. Okay, because from why I did mapping that place, because here your mapping is from intake level. Okay, your mapping will should become from the work item level. Okay, because work item is the parent of the intake. Okay, that's why what I did, for the intake CV1 I assigned this work item. Same way for review C1, just assign to the review. Done. Okay, similar way, go to the load HS once and do the same thing over here. Why we are doing? Because in the coach view we generated the coach view from the intake level or review level. So same way over here, work item dot intake or work item dot review. Fine. Save it. And load section you don't need. Why? Because in the load section, since you just dragged and dropped the variables, and that variables you are dragged and dropped from the work item level. Okay, so this data mapping is already there. Work item dot load date. So here you don't need to do any other mapping. Fine, that's it. You don't need to do any other thing. Okay, that's it. That's the what the data mapping happened. And now if you try to test your process, your data should be moved from one service to other service. Okay, let's do this. Click over here. Yes, first one, intake. So let me give some request. I'm giving update request, request a name, request is, suppose again I am making the address change request, notes, please change my address, request date is today's date, requester name is Tom Matthew, request address is Dallas, Texas. Suppose work stream is a gastro physician, and some number is some number. Okay, I didn't give any validation. Submit. Okay, okay, because I had one more screen, so that's why it got this data. Click on the sum. Okay, so this service is over. Fine. Now again you will refresh, it will came to the next service. Fine. Review person. Okay. You can see the exact data is coming because you have assigned the data in the global variable. Now similar way, give some review date. Click on the OK button. Is valid request? Yes. Review commit? Yes. Request is successfully reviewed. Click on the OK button. Fine. Next, it came to load. Now in the load, you should get both intake and review data. So if you click over here, so intake data is there and review data is also there. Now give some load date. Okay, you can do the validation also over here. Okay, I'm giving some data like string. The normally in the front page you will do the validation like a request cannot be more than this. Okay, when you are typing something in place of date. Okay, you should not point something few fields you want to mandatory. Everything you can do and click on the submit button. Fine. Okay, if you refresh it, your process got over. So this is the data mapping. In future, even if you want to do data mapping between any two services, we are going to use this funda only. So you also try to create a process, try to create a service, okay, and just to see whether you are able to transfer the data from one service to other service or not. Okay, fine.